Hey guys, Cameron Hemphill here, your host for Medical Millionaire. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to tune into the podcast. Our goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. So if you own a medical aesthetics practice or you're thinking about becoming an owner, all of these episodes are 100% designed for you and to help you take your practice to the next level. So guys, today I have a guest on. She is from Manchester, New Hampshire. Jennifer Fleming. She's board certified, nurse practitioner. I think she's a new trainer for Revamp. So like she's got amazing credentials. She's been in practice for 2 years. I would categorize her in the growth phase. Continue to grow the practice. Jennifer, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I love talking about all these things, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love having you. Thank you for taking the time. I know that how you are super busy, just growing the practice, being a mom, like wearing all the hats. And I think that's one of the things I want to talk about real quick, if that's okay, because we were talking
That's
offline how busy we are and, like just the challenges. Like, how do you navigate being a parent and being a practice owner, business owner, and all the other hats that you wear in your life? Like, how do you manage the time? It's crazy. So give us a little bit of insight on that.
I don't know if I'm perfect at this yet, and starting, and I don't know if it ever really gets better, but when everyone says, we're always looking for the balance of life, and I don't really think that there's ever a true balance. I think that in times we fluctuate. So there are things that are going to require some more of that demand and others. I'm very fortunate that my husband, he takes a lot of things off of my plate, and I always tell everybody that I really couldn't do what I'm doing without him because with two children, you just can't do all of those things. But I think the biggest thing is just trying to be mindful of time. And when you're at work, you're at work. And when you have those moments with your children, you just try to be present. And I know sometimes that's not always easy, but I continue to make a really conscious effort about that because, those years we're never going to get back. And so,
Right.
the business, all of these things are still going to be here, but just trying our best to balance when we can or to shift when we can. And to find those people, whether it's a spouse or friends or family, just to try to offset some of that because one person cannot do it alone and you'll just struggle and it will not be good in any area if you try to do it alone.
I 100% agree. It's very challenging being present, being a business owner, having, how old are your kids?
They're 6 and 8, so they're really getting to that point. And now, sports is sort of like taking over our lives a little bit. And again, you're just trying to fit it all in. And I find just being very strategic with time. It's, if on the weekends you have to do something, I will say, I'm going upstairs and I'm going in the office and I'm going to be there for 2 hours and just sort of let me be. And then I'm all yours. So just allow me that little bit of time and they're better because they know it's like, they set the timer and they're like, okay, it's been 2 hours, your time's up out of the office.
I love that idea. That's great. I mean, having the
Yeah.
timer, I see my wife doing that too, like different ways of like, hey, you get this toy or this thing for a certain amount of
Yeah.
minutes because I have
Yep.
two children as well, so the siblings can fight. I like that. And I think like that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's, hey, I'm gonna be upstairs, like mom's upstairs, and now you're focused because you
Yeah.
know you only have a certain amount of time to get
Right.
the job done, right?
Right.
And so like you almost hold each other accountable in an interesting way. And then when you come out of the work environment, right, then you're focused on the family. And I think like so much we are faced with the challenges of the phone in the pocket
Ugh,
and the noise
yeah.
and the urgency
Yeah.
and somebody's calling about an appointment or texting or DMing or it's super challenging and it's just for the audience
Yeah.
like yeah I would challenge you guys to take some of that advice like do the timer thing, put the phone down, like be present. It's so hard because I mean I have two kids and man they're in cheer, like traveling cheer now, which is a whole new ball game. It's very interesting, so I totally get the challenges.
And I do think that in the beginning it's harder, and then as you grow, we maybe get a little bit better about delegation, or maybe people come onto our teams that we can let go of some of that stuff. But I mean, training, and I go into a lot of practices, and I've had the opportunity in the last few months. And, it is a struggle when you see just people starting, it's hard. This is not it's not an easy thing to do. And having worked in critical care for a really long time, I spent a decade as a nurse practitioner in the ICU. And I sometimes in my mind, I'm like, God, it feels so much easier to like save someone's life because you become very systematized in the way things have to get done and what you have to do. And it's very algorithmic in the
Mm.
medicine field or when you're dealing with really sick people. But then you sort of enter into this world where there's so many unknowns. And I think that sometimes is so unsettling. And, you make a ton of mistakes and you hope not to. Um, but yeah, it's just hard. But we
That
learn
is
and it
that
gets
is
easier.
yeah.
But it gets easier. It gets
Yeah,
easier.
yeah. I mean, it gets easier. It gets a different level of challenge and easy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right. That brings up a really good point. So you've been in practice for 2 years. I would be curious to know what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, like day zero, even like let's call it day negative, right? Before you opened up
Hmm.
the practice. And then year one, like what were your biggest challenges, biggest takeaways, some of the things that you learned?
Yeah. Well, listen, my story is a little bit unique because I always say that medical aesthetics is something that sort of found me. I was not looking to get into this field. I was randomly approached by someone that had opened a practice. I had worked and was sort of doing two things simultaneously. So I never really knew that this was what I was going to be doing. And I was looking for a place to rent that was a little bit bigger because I have a twin sister and I was starting to train her. And so I was like, well, maybe we'll just rent a little bit of a bigger space. And then I found this building that I just walked into the space and I opened the door and that was it. I just knew it was sort of like this. I know it sounds crazy, but it was a feeling that sort of came over me and it just, it, my brain just said your life is going to change and that was it. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's too big and it's too much money and you're not going to be able to do that. And I just sort of like tuned it all out. So that was like day zero. It was just sort of a feeling was like, I didn't even really think that I didn't have a plan that I was opening a business. It just sort of happened. And then things just sort of transpired. And by listening to that voice of saying yes, people were put into my place at the time that I needed them. There was like in a women's group, there was like a lawyer. I was like, oh my God, I need you. Or this other person was like, oh my God, they're there too. And so sometimes I think starting is just believing or kind of have a knowing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like there's just something that keeps pushing you in that direction. And I think sometimes it's just having the guts to believe that, even if other people are sort of doubting you or thinking that it's not possible. Anything is possible. It's just finding ways to kind of create that. But I think that to me was sort of ground zero of starting. And then the biggest challenge, of course, I think for business owners is just some of those business pieces. But I learned to identify quickly what I knew and what I didn't know. And I still do this to this day. If I don't know something, I'm like keeping note of that. Either I need to find someone that does this better than I do, or I need to read or learn about this, or always sort of making notes of those things so that we can get better. But those were, I think, some of the biggest pieces is a sort of believing and taking that risk because there are big risks when you say yes to something and putting everything you have into that and knowing that it's going to succeed and actually not even having a plan B. It was like everyone's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know because that's not a plan. Like that's not in the plan. This is going to happen. And so sometimes we just sort of will that to be. And if you have that desire to do it, you're going to do it. Um, and I know I went a little off rail there, but
I love
and
it.
really I think understanding some of my finances. So for these are a few tips. And I wish I knew this earlier on because I sort of learned this as I was going through within each state, and this is across the nation. There are free resources for new business owners, and people should be taking advantage of these resources. One is called Score. Score is a great opportunity. you sort of, as a new business owner, you tell them what you need, whether it be accounting, marketing, finance, it doesn't matter. And they will hook you up with people. And they do this for free. There are entrepreneurs that have sort of retired, or maybe they just do this on the side to help new business owners succeed. So that's one, which I highly recommend that people take advantage of. And another one is CWE, or Center of Women in Enterprise. It's more geared towards women, but these are free resources. And I wish that I knew about them, because I sort of learned about them a bit further on and I utilize them. And, but those things I think are really helpful for people that are like, I really don't know where to start. And they can sort of help at least guide and get you on that path and put you in touch with people that you might need along the way if you really feel like you're on an island alone.
That's well said. Are those national resources, or are
They
they
are
to
national.
your local area?
No,
Okay,
I believe they are national resources. I know specifically they're in New Hampshire, but I'm quite certain that those are national. So look them up.
that's huge. No, I appreciate you sharing that with the audience. I think like anybody that's facing challenges in terms of, how do I connect all the dots?
Yep.
Yes, you need an attorney. Yes, you need marketing. You need
Yep.
some business sense. You need sales training. Shoot, you need, like there's a tremendous amount
Yeah.
of things that you need in order to run a practice. And so that's
Yeah.
super important. I think one of the other things too that you mentioned is really like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take really like a leap of faith. Like, here's the plan. I'm going to do it, and like taking action is the biggest thing I heard from that.
Yeah.
Was there's so much in terms of like we can get lost in preparation, we can get lost in naysayers, we can get, and
Mm-hmm.
what's so crazy, some of the biggest naysayers are like your closest friends and relatives and family. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
It's I've experienced that. Like, oh, somebody's already done that. Somebody's opened one of
Yeah.
those, or oh, it's super expensive. What about the lawsuits? Like, man, I hear the marketing's hard. Isn't it saturated? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like what's crazy, Jennifer. Sometimes I even get advice from people. So off topic, I own quite a few real estate rental properties. Over the course of my career, I have to retire at some point. And so I've learned a shitload about real estate.
Yeah.
And off topic, but sometimes people will come to me and they will tell me, they'll try to give me advice on real estate investing, and I'm like, "Do you own any properties?" No, but I've heard, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
that was anyway, coming full circle back to what you were saying, like that resonates really hard with me. And I know the audience as well, because look, guys, like at the end of the day, this is entrepreneurship. Like this
Yeah.
truly, truly is. I mean, you have all the credentials to be a provider, which is fantastic and amazing. But this is a business. There is sales that take place. There is expenses that take place. There is liabilities, employee issues. You have to invest in technology, marketing. Like, Jennifer, the more I learn about practice owners, and I've been in this since 2017, so not as long as most people, but I think I have, I've been in the industry for a little while now. The more respect I have for you owners. Like it's it's wild, because you go to school to learn everything clinical. You
Yeah.
spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and then it's like, hey, go open up a
That's the truth.
business.
That is the truth. Yeah. No, and that's the thing. And I think you sort of, so when I started, I'm like, oh, I have to read, right? So I just read so many books. I mean, just, and I still constantly listen to, from financial things to sales things. And again, and then you find those people that hopefully that you connect with, like your company, right? I've been using Growth 99 since when we started. I sort of had a website that a friend had created, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sort of need to move this to the next level. And you sort of get to those pieces, and then you connect with people and they just do really good work, right? And so I'm like, well, I never have to leave because you guys do everything that I need. And I'm not saying that because I'm on here. I'm just saying it's like you find people that you just sort of jive with and connect with. And some are going to work and some companies are not going to work. Sometimes marketing, I've never actually we're just going to be starting paid marketing, like little bits. My goal was always sort of, I wanted to start out with brand recognition, creating just more of not lead generation initially. It's just like, this is who we are. These are our values. This is how we engage in the community, and really sort of really truly from a grassroots efforts trying to build a brand. And that's really hard to do, but I think it's really understanding those values of this is who we are, this is what we do really well, this is how we want our community to perceive us, because we could be perceived a million different ways on Instagram and across the nation, and that's fine. But it's how are you going to be perceived from the people that are in your community that are coming to see you, and how does that relate? And so that was always sort of where we put all of our efforts initially. And I'm a big believer, and this is another tip, if I could sort of give tips for people that are starting out, is to really engage in your community. I mean, there are chambers, there are different organizations within your community. There are leadership things in your community, because that's really who's coming to you. And so I've found it extremely beneficial. And even if it's not like everyone in those community things are maybe necessarily your client, or your patient, but they're going to tell other people because now they know of you and this is what you do and you're involved in X, Y, or Z. And so any opportunity to donate to causes that you believe in your communities, etc., they're going to pay you back tenfold. They are good. They're just I really truly think that that's how businesses grow.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think that there's practice owners either that have been in business for a year, even 5 years, and they don't understand the value of local community networking,
Yeah.
right? Like there's so many entrepreneur groups. I don't care if the population's 50,000 or
Yeah.
3 million where you live. There is support, whether it's
Yeah.
like your church community, entrepreneurship community, book
Yeah.
clubs, like there's you have to just get creative. But I agree, because
Yeah.
what's going to happen, people see that you care, people see who you are, um, and people see your expertise, and they see your personality,
Yeah.
and people want to connect with people, and what better way could you do it than networking face to face, and then having a provider like build confidence within who you are after they come and see you.
Yeah. And I think even as providers, finding other providers or business owners in your own, I think that sometimes medical, when having been in medicine a very long time and in an ICU every morning, right, you would round on your patients. And so it would be myself and a physician, and you have your nutritionist, and and you round as a team, and then you have residents. And so it was constant dialogue, constant every day. We're just learning, and talking amongst patients and discussing things. And it was so engaging. And then when I sort of transitioned over into aesthetics, I mean, I remember reaching out to someone and just saying, "Oh my God, where do you get your insulin syringes from?" And it was like silence, because God forbid, like you tell them, like if you tell somebody that, or if you share that information, they're going to take a patient from you or something. It was like the most bizarre thing. And here in New Hampshire, myself and a few other providers, we developed a nonprofit for medical aesthetic providers. And it was really based off of necessity, because there were some legal things that were happening in our state. But that's really sort of what allowed me to broaden my network and really create friends and colleagues. I mean, they might even be 10 miles away, or some
Yeah,
even 5 miles away. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you are you. You are your own person, and you are your own superpower. And people are going to come to you because they like you and they connect with you. And then there are going to be people that go to somewhere else because they connect there, and that's okay. And you're different. And that shouldn't, you shouldn't fear that by trying to connect with other people in the community that are doing the same thing you're doing. It should really be more of a collaborative effort than feeling like you're in, because I mean, think of how many dentists and doctors' offices are around you. I mean, my God, there's like
right.
3
Yeah,
dental practices right on my street. And this is a field that's becoming, people it's growing for reasons, right? It's growing because people are interested in this and people are getting these services. And so inevitably it's going to continue to grow. It's just you figuring out how are you maybe going to be a little bit different than maybe that person next to you, or what are you going to provide, or what is your expertise, and just trying to sort of zone into what that is and just be true to that, genuinely true to that, because that's how you're gonna, again, like your business is gonna grow and you're gonna grow and all of those things are gonna grow. So
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I mean, one of the things that just for the audience, you guys, she talked a lot about branding, right? And the importance of branding before. I mean, we're talking, here's an owner that's been in practice for 2 years. And she had just said, now I'm in the point where I'm going to start running some ads, right? One could argue that she should have ran ads a while ago, right? Another one could
mhm.
argue, hey, you know what? I ran ads and they didn't do anything for me. I don't care. But the point is she is talking the importance of branding and being true to who she is, the value of the brand, the value in the community, and holding true to that. Because like, what's the population where you live, Jennifer?
Oh boy, I'd have to really Google that. It's a few mil. I mean, Manchester's the
It's
biggest city in New Hampshire, so it's
okay.
big.
Okay, so good size.
I
So there's
mean,
millions of people. I mean, if you were to do like a radius, and here's what I want you guys to understand. Yes, there's like if you look at how many dentists are out there versus med spas, medical aesthetics practices,
right.
it's night and day. I saw a report recently. We were doing a study, and it was I think there's over 100,000 dental practices in America. I know it's over 100,000 for sure.
Yep.
Um, I think it's like 125,000, something like that. I'd have to look, but don't quote me. I know it's over 100. I know it's less than 200.
Okay.
Um, Med spas specifically med spas. I'm not talking about like plastic surgeons that also
Yep.
have a med spa on it, like not bolt-ons, but true med spas,
Yep.
12,500.
Oh my God. Yeah.
12,500.
See, so I think, and so many people, it's so, I mean, and here, I mean, I guess Manchester's a little different than other cities because I do hear from other cities, you could have an office where there's someone right next to you, or there's someone above you, or there's someone right next door. It's not quite there yet in
Right.
New Hampshire. I mean, I mean, we're also a relatively, small state, and we're not like very, very city-like, but it's going to continue to get bigger. So people you just have to accept it, right? If you're going to get into this, it's like getting into it for the right reasons as well. Because there's so many people that, um, could this be a lucrative field? Yes, it can. But if that's the only driving thing, I mean, listen, I'm still waiting for that to happen. I mean, I think if people go into this thinking like, I'm gonna like this, it's like you get rich quick. That's not it.
Yeah.
I mean, owning a business, there are so many pieces. And for me, it's like I'm like saving everything I make because I want to expand, like at some point I
Mhm.
bought this building, and so the next step is building into the second and third floor, and then it's expanding, and it's just sort of reinvesting into your own business. It's not about, like all of the other extras for me. I mean, that might not be for everybody,
Yeah.
but for me, it's that's the most important piece of sort of really structurally and creating something that is going to sort of withstand the test of time.
Oh my goodness, this is gold. I love it. So yeah, a couple points there. So based off of the demand and the supply, right? And I'm talking here like the supply of providers versus the demand of people wanting
Mm-hmm.
these types of services. It's
Mm-hmm.
night and day. And what's happening is the consumer is getting more advanced every single day, right? And it's not even necessarily like, hey, I want to look like younger and beautiful for the gram. It's, hey, you know what? This actually helps build confidence. It really helps
Yeah.
with, like your mental well being,
Yeah.
and there's also, I mean, with the peptides and everything coming out, like, my gosh, you can also like, anti-aging around the exterior of the body, the interior of the body. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I have become a full like I go to practices, like
Yeah.
I'm a patient and I love it. And so like the supply versus demand, I mean, there's so much room for opportunity. And so to her point about competition, yes, that's real for sure. But at the same time, you guys need to understand the supply and demand is just like completely off the charts. And we can just compare that to the dental practices. Like everybody has a face and everybody has teeth. Well,
Right. Right.
hopefully everybody has teeth.
Right.
um,
Well, yes, and they get teeth cleanings. I mean,
yeah,
that's a
yes,
necessity. That is a true necessity.
yeah, yes.
But
I
I
mean,
do like
yes,
your
it
point.
is.
There was even a recent study in a dermatology magazine or literature that I was reading the other day, and that is very true. I mean, time and time again, they have done. Um, I mean, obviously, it's anecdotal because people are just saying why they get services, but the top reason why people seek out aesthetic services is on the basis of building confidence in some area, right? Because if we can exude that, and I mean, it extends in every facet of our life if we feel better about ourselves and if we feel good. So I think that this is something that people are going to continue to seek, and we just need really good providers. And this is one field that is sort of, it's, and I hate to even use the word industry. I sort of hate that. I really do. I'm like, is this an industry? It's a field. It's a specialty, right? It's just like
Uh-huh.
urology or cardiology. It is a specialty, and I think that it should be viewed as such. And I swear, this is like I'm going to like go to the grave. And I know that there are so many amazing providers out there that are trying and they're working so hard on doing this, but really creating, we have master's degrees and higher education and certifications in all different specialties, yet aesthetics is just one of those things that we haven't quite figured out how to do that. And I'm like, well, it's like on my docket at some point. I hope that I can assist in doing that, because I think we need that. And I think our
Mhm.
patients require that, because there's sort of a mixed degree of education and different things throughout. And I think another thing too is for new patients starting out, it's like education and investing in yourself also needs to be one of the primary factors throughout your course of time, because no one else is going to invest in you. Like practices, you might find practices that are willing to sort of give you money towards certain things, but no one is going to invest in your knowledge, in your expertise, whether it be like at the bedside or at the chair side or at the business side, right? So that is something that you sort of have to do. Like you have to put that time in, or find the right people, like find like finance people that are going to help you understand your books. My God. I mean, that was something I like struggled with. And it's been a godsend. I have sort of like a CFO. They're not in my office, but I pay a
Mhm.
company. Um, and it's been brilliant. It sort of opens your brain to just detailed numbers of what every provider is bringing in and where can you be saving, and do you have room to buy that laser based on X, Y, or Z, and do you have room to bring on a medical assistant. And it's really important to understand that, not just like, oh well, I mean, this month we did really good, but it's like, did you though? Like, how much did you pay in products, or what are you paying out for your employees? And and it's been an eye opener for me as well, and to really view that in a much more fine tuned level, because that's where you're going to be able to better generate and create wealth, but growth, right? Like that real
Yeah.
growth that can continue to grow because it's healthy.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely 100% accurate. I was, in fact, I had Mary Beth Hagan on one of my
Love her.
podcasts, and yeah, she's the one. She's like, Cam, this is a specialty. Like, so to your point about industry, and she's like, this is a specialty, and so she really opened up my eyes of like, oh my gosh, it is like this is. It's just been interesting to learn more and more about the space, and and all the hard work that's put into it. And then one of the components you must have hired. I'm thinking you may have hired a firm that I know, I could be wrong, but investing in finance, understanding the numbers, right? Like, what is your top line sales revenue?
Mm,
We had a great month, but what was the net
yeah,
operating income? What are the
yeah,
margins? Like how
yeah.
much time have you invested into finance as being a practice owner? Like, I bet a lot at this point, being 2 years in.
A lot. And actually, that was one of the first things when I had reached out to like my score person. It was really understanding cash flows and looking like that's how I started because I really identified, whoa, this is an area where, again, jotting down, like this is an area where I do not excel at. Numbers are not my thing, but I need numbers to be my thing. And so, how do I find the right people? And so, at least it sort of got me started. And then I listened to a few books. But again, now I might not understand everything, but I have a team, right? Because I don't want that to be my specialty. I'm not an expert at that, but I want an expert on my team that's helping me understand that on a month to month basis, which is really
Yeah.
important.
You can't grow solo. I mean, you can when you're starting out and wearing multiple hats, and like every season of business, like 0 to 1 years is a season where it's like multiple hats, learning a lot. Like year 2 to year 3 is pure growth, and then you get in the optimization, and then like it just continues to grow. But like
Yeah.
it's it's interesting everything that you learn along the way. And so one of my biggest respects for practice owners is, see, for me, I was I was kind of born into entrepreneurship, and I don't need to be motivated. I just need to make sure I'm like very disciplined, which I am, and I think that's helped me out a lot in my career path and what I've done. But you know, you I've studied a lot about business, and I've studied a lot about finance, and I've studied about sales, and just like so much on how to open a business, how to fail in
Yeah.
a business, how to succeed. I
Yeah.
never went to school for how to be a provider. So it's like I never have had to learn that ever, right? So like you guys do that, and then it's like this whole new business mindset. It's just becoming more and more clear to me now that even after all these years been in it, it's just mind blowing. And then pack marketing on top of that, like that's a whole other category on top
Yeah.
of running the practice like a business, and
Yeah.
then the safety to the patients and the result.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
And I think actually the biggest piece too, which not was a struggle, but it was just more of is managing people and understanding people and sort of identifying and figuring out how to what drives people, how to connect with your staff. And really like I knew when I started a business, I'm like, okay, yes, so I want to grow and I want to be successful and I want all of those things. But my biggest thing was I want a culture that people love it here and they want to stay and they never want to leave, right? And how do you do that? And hard that's hard, and it's finding the right people. And I've been very fortunate. Like, we're still really small. I mean, 2 years, I mean, we are small, and I'm still, I'm trying to even grow myself, but then try to also grow like two other providers and make sure that their schedules are busy. And that's where really that marketing comes into play. But I think just identifying where people's strengths are and playing off of that, and then guiding, if maybe they're not strong in this area, then guiding them somewhere else, and then connecting. I mean, we as a team, like every week we meet for an hour and we talk about like projections for that week, what we're working on, and then having different things. So if there's ever downtime, it's like, well, we've already identified X, Y, and Z that needs to be done. And so who's working on that? Who's doing this? And then really checking in on a day-to-day basis, because when everyone is very clear about the vision of your business, and hopefully businesses are sort of developing that with their teams, because you want everyone to be on board with what that looks like, because they all need to feel that. Everyone is much more willing to sort of be part of that growth. I don't want this to be like all about me. I want it to be about them. I want it to be about like the
yeah,
Alchemy Clinic, not Jennifer Fleming. So
yep.
in that mind, it's like, how do we continue to build up your whole team rather than just building you up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it goes back to your mission and it goes back to your branding. Like initially what you said, when we first started talking. I mean, like, I look at it in this way, like you have to have here's the critical here's the playbook, right? Is you have to have a great team that kind of helps you with the business aspects, whether it's like the P&L, the balance sheet, understanding how much your providers are making per hour, shoot, how much you're making per hour, like someone to help file the taxes. And then you have your internal team, which is like your providers, front desk, admin,
Mm-hmm.
maybe on-site social, content creator, like whatever that stuff is. And you have to have benchmarks and KPIs, right? And so like, and then at the end of the day, you have to have the patient has to get like the best experience possible
Right.
because there is options like we
Right.
just talked about. There's options and they're looking for a result. They're not buying neurotoxins. They're not buying Morpheus 8. They're not buying like even though that's like the
Right.
the solution or product we're selling, they're buying a result. So if you break that down, shoot, we could just have like an entire episode on this. But
Yeah.
like, talk to me a little bit about like your meeting. Okay, you say you meet once a week, and I think most practice owners do.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that
So,
those can be ran very effectively. Sorry, those
yeah.
can be ran like very effectively, like you're talking about, like with a great agenda and like great benchmarks, great KPIs. Where are we at? What are we forecasting? What are the projections? Or not ran very well at all. So talk to us about that. That's super important.
Well, and that's interesting. I mean, maybe that might be a little bit of an area too that I can do a little bit better just in terms of like having
Sure.
so what we would tend to do is have an agenda that week. So what are maybe issues that or in the processes or throughout the week that are what's not running effectively that we could do better? What are some projects that we're working on? We always sort of drill in social media because that's the bane of all of our existence, really. Um, and then benchmarks. I don't think that I maybe do that well. So I think that that's probably going to be another one. Now working with our team, there's other benchmarks in terms of different bonus structures, and so when people understand that, we know that these are things that we are trying to achieve as a team itself. But that will, because we just had our meeting yesterday talking about that, but that will be plugged into those meetings in some way, shape, or form as well, in terms of like your monthly forecast. But every week, it's more, we sort of make that agenda throughout the week as little things sort of come up. And we all
Sure.
sort of add to that list of different areas that we need to touch upon so that everyone is sort of focused and tuned in. And then that list sort of carries forward so that we know that we can sort of cross those things off throughout the week so that things are getting done. Because how many times have you gone to meetings and you talk about the same thing over and over and over again and nothing gets done? And that to me is like, oh God, it like kills me. It's just like, who's taking ownership of it? Who's doing it? And is it complete yet? That's it.
Yeah. So I'm with you. Like I've been in a lot of meetings in my life, and some are great, and some are extremely boring. And like,
Yeah.
um, the ones that I like are just like you. It's okay. Like, here's the KPIs, here's the benchmarks, here's the agenda, and then by the way, like, here's the to do. And if you need to get it done by this deadline, or there's a
Yeah.
consequence, and if you do, there's a reward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's like you have a true understanding of who's in charge of what needs to be done, and when it needs to be done. And that's like that's how an effective meeting should always be ran. I agree with you.
And then you're just moving in the right direction because I mean, constantly I'm like, okay, we need to change this brochure or something comes up where like creating like QR codes or something. Like it's just, there's always like things that you identify that you could do better to make it the process easier for your patient or to make it easier in your system. And I mean, that's been, there's been lots of pain points in terms of programs and what talks to what and what are you going to
Mhm.
use? And everyone uses all different things. And I think you just have to figure out what in your practice works well for you and does it function in that capacity, right? Because you can sort of, I think, as a business owner, be inundated in, well, don't you need this or like the next best thing, and it can be overwhelming to the point of like, oh my God, I don't even know what I need or what I don't need. But a few things that I've actually just recently implemented is AI for some
Okay.
note writing, which I
Yeah.
think is a game
Nice. Okay.
changer. Which is a game changer.
Uh,
And I don't use that on every patient, but on more of our functional medicine patients where just the time you require, I mean, like it's just so nice to be able to look at your patient and speak to them and engage with your
mhm.
patient and less, sitting at a computer and making sure that you're getting everything that they're saying. And so just trying to figure out those little pieces within your practice that, can you work smarter?
Brings up a good point. I was curious to know like what is your tech stack to run the practice like a business?
It's
And let's just
funny.
kind of go
I
through the
don't even,
journey.
I had
So
to look up that word. I had to look up that word because I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Is this even a word that people use? I don't really have, and maybe you can actually enlighten me because I don't, we have our tech things. So, we have our EMR system, which is a little bit different than I think what other aesthetic practices are using because it's geared a little bit more towards functional medicine because we have patients with labs coming in. And so we need to be able to identify that or like to
mhm.
access that. We use TouchMD for all of our photos, which is great. Through our marketing stuff, I don't know what I know. The only reason why we weren't using Growth 99 stuff is because it just didn't communicate with our EMR system. So it was like trying, and that's when you're like, how am I going to work smarter? Because if something is not communicating with your primary source, it's like you can't use it. You just have to figure out another tool. But our marketing person they use, have you heard of Local Surge?
I
I think it's
haven't.
just like
I haven't heard.
it's like a network that I think brings together if you get like messages from Facebook or Instagram or if someone's reaching out to you via
Hmm.
Google, it sort of filters into one little space so that way we can just look and see what messages have sort of come in. Um, Through Growth 99, it's really like through every lead, we just get that in an email, which is really great. And then we can just reply right back, which is great. But tell me a little bit, what does that mean as a text or a tech stack?
Yeah, no, let me hone on that. So a couple points there, and I typically don't get into Growth 99 a ton. So for the audience here, I'll just kind of give you guys a little bit of snippet and update. So the CRM marketing automation component, you can set up the triggers to where automatic text, automatic emails automatically go out upon those responses. So something you and I should definitely talk offline on. There's also an AI component to it, and then we haven't even like this is actually probably the first time I've talked about it publicly, but the next version of the back end will actually bring in all of your DMs from all the social categories. The two-way texting is already activated. You can two-way text inside the system now, but it'll be one thread. So your emails, your texts, your messages, everything will come into one thread. That's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
released in December of this year. And then we've done a really good job of integrating with a lot of the EMR systems. So you have like some of the ones that I'll call out: Aesthetic Record, Boulevard, Patient Now. Um, we just had a call with Mevo. Some of those,
Yeah,
like
like a
so
lot of the
there's
bigger
there's others
aesthetic.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking with Servo right now. Servo is a functional
Oh,
type of
it's a
EMR
great
system. Yeah,
program. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great
yeah. So
program.
what EMR system do you use?
We use something called OptiMantra. So it was between
Okay.
OptiMantra and Serbo, and we went with OptiMantra. And Serbo is great. It's just it is pretty pricey if you have multiple providers, but it might be something that we end up transitioning to. I think no matter there's going to be pros and cons to whatever EMR system one chooses. And I haven't found anything to be entirely perfect. I think it's just what what is the less what kind of gives you the biggest bang for your buck with regards to what is it attached to, um, and does it fit with like where your practice is now?
Yeah. No, you're yeah. I mean, that's like EMRs, CRMs, like, the technology, like everybody loves a feature of like everything. In fact, like I've seen some practice owners that use like a couple different EMRs because they like different features inside the EMRs,
Oh
which
yeah, no,
is
that's
that,
yeah
and that's a broken tech stack, by the way.
yeah.
So, and to come to your point, what is a tech stack, right? Like a technology stack. It's basically what technology do you use at your business to help automate everything, or help
Okay.
improve efficiency. So if I was to look at the Alchemy Clinic, for example, I would look at your tech stack as you have the website let's talk marketing for a minute. You have the website, you have social, you have Instagram, like you have all those handles coming in. You have them flowing into a CRM system, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
in your case would be Growth 99.
Yep.
That houses a lot of your lead data. And then you have, what was the EMR? Sorry, it's one I'm just not super familiar with.
OptiMantra. OptiMantra.
OptiMantra. Then you have OptiMantra. That's patient experience, charting, compliance, HIPAA,
Right.
all that stuff. And then you probably have like QuickBooks or FreshBooks or something from an
Exactly.
accounting standpoint.
Exactly. QuickBooks. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
there you go. So that's your tech stack to like run the practice. And then maybe like Canva, maybe a tool you use or
Yeah.
something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So,
Yep.
but that's how I would define it. Well, hey, you've been amazing to have on. I know that
Yeah. Thank you
you're
so
super
much.
busy.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
you've
much. I
been
really
great. This
appreciate.
is
And I always say,
I
like, just reach out or DM if anyone ever really has any questions. I feel like I'm an open book. People have helped me along the way, and I think it's just in our life you sort of find people that can just assist you in different areas in your lifetime, because we can't all do this. And I'm still seeking it. Like, I still have my people that I reach out to, and will continue to reach out to. So
awesome. No, you've been amazing. This has just been great. I really appreciate it. I love doing this because it also helps me get to know you more, right? Which
yeah,
I just love. So
yeah.
I appreciate the time. The audience is going to love it. But if people do want to connect with you, where is
Yeah.
the best place for them to go?
Honestly, they can email Jennifer at alchemyclinic.com. They can follow me on my Instagram, which I have to hold on because I changed it because it was too long. So don't judge me here. Jennifer underscore NP underscore alchemy, or just
Got
the
it.
Alchemy
And then
Clinic.
you
It
also,
doesn't matter.
yeah, Alchemy Clinic. Yep. And then go to the website, the
Yeah.
Alchemy or alchemyclinic.com. All right,
Yes.
guys, there you have it. So there was a tremendous amount of things in this episode that you guys can get tips from, tricks from. Jennifer, I really appreciate you being on and telling us everything about your journey and success and taking the time. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so
I'll leave it
much.
at that, guys. Until next time, happy injecting.
Bye.